individual advising meeting with your students. That's the main thing that we do. We have about 30 to probably even more in-person and remote kind of career programs. Like yesterday, we finished a program on writing contracts, and that was by Zoom. You can always join us for any of the Zoom programs. And then we had last week we had a resume charrette, kind of like a speed dating workshop on campus. We do departmental presentation, which means that we go into whatever your student's discipline is, and we'll do like a targeted presentation. Like tonight's presentation is very general, it's for everybody. Um, but we do targeted presentations. So you probably have heard your student talk about like artworks. If you haven't, they should know artworks. Artworks is RISD's job and internship board, and that's where we have our employer list as well. So we always encourage students to start there. So we do internship guidance for students. So I will either talk in an advising meeting about how to prepare, how to strategize, how to get organized, how to look, where to look, when to look. Those are all part of the guidance. And then we also do that with employers as well. We talk to employers about how to be good employers for our students. What do we need as a school? And what the students need to be successful. So I spend a lot of time talking to employees about that. In the Career Center, we also manage grants, residencies, and fellowship. And we actually have a person that is very specialized in grants that does the Fulbright grants, um, and fellowships and residencies for fine artists. So a lot of our resources are actually online in video format, from our website. If you go into it, you can find information on how to set up a good resume. You can even find tips on networking. You can find information about Fulbright advising. You can find many things on artworks. So we'll go to the next slide. I see there's a question that might be coming in. We'll answer all questions probably at the end, if that's okay with you. So thank you. So this is the parents page. And I just want you to see the orange at the top of Scott's head. It says parents and he's jumping. That's how we're excited about our jobs. This is after we did one of our career fair and we were all exhausted and we're jumping for joy because we had over 700 students and over 100 employers. So we were very happy. But that parents page is really important for you. Next slide, please. So we have this chart as well. I've tried to keep links within each page so you can actually access it when you do go back and look at the presentation. This page is really talking about how to prepare for internships. Some of you might have like freshmen to seniors or even grad students. And there's like a level of what they need to do at what time. And that's what this chart kind of shows. So for example, students should prepare for in the fall for winter session and summer internships. And and then they should definitely try to attend some of our programs and get some kind of advisement to make sure their materials are in order, where we look at their portfolios, resumes, we talk to them about LinkedIn. We usually have Internship Connect in the fall. Internship Connect is a career fair where companies come in October and they just collect resumes. So it's a traditional internship fair. In the fall through spring, the Career Center meets with the students' academic departments, and that's when we go inside and we do those detailed presentation, because an architect finding an internship is different than a glass student finding an internship. So we feel that it's necessary to go into the class and do that kind of presentation as well. So the academic departments really support us and invite us in to do that kind of presentation. So this page, if student info, about internships is really, really important. If you can get your students to go to this page, it actually will answer a lot of questions for them. So, I mean, we go down to the basics like what is an internship, what's expected. And also too, when students go on artworks uses the word experiential learning for internships. So it is an experience that they're going to be having. So we want students to know when the deadlines are. We want them to know what qualifies as an internship. We want them to know what the guidelines for hybrid or in-person is, RISD's guidelines. We want them to be able to be strong negotiators of paid stipend or unpaid. We want them to have a really good experience and we want them to have a safe experience. So that's why the Career Center is also part of it too. Next slide. And next slide. Okay. So where to start looking for an internship? The starting point is really Artworks. So Artworks has been in existence for, maybe like 20, actually Artworks existed when I was a student, but it was on paper. But the digital version is about 20 years old or so. And it has a range of opportunities from open call for artists, from jobs, internship, from residencies. It has a lot of details there. So we think that's the best place for a student to start looking for work. But we also have a specific section on our website that lists other job boards too, and directories and organizations by major, where students can actually look for employers and also look for alternative job boards. And then also, we also have a section that talks about the network. Next slide, please. So this calendar, if you can help me with your student, is so important because students always forget deadlines. And this calendar exists for you to look at as well under the student info. If students are looking for a summer internship, June 11th is the day that the deadline for registering that internship. So I'm going to clarify that for you. They can register that internship right on June 11th. It doesn't have to be all approved. It just needs to be registered on that date. Internships are anywhere from 10 to 12 weeks. There are requirements for it. And usually the main requirement is that 100 hours as far as timing goes. And it's 100 hours, 6 weeks in the summer. And as you can see from this chart, this timeline, you can see that students can do internships all throughout the year. So they can do a winter session, they can do a spring, they can do a fall. And summer we know is the best time to do it, where they can really be immersed in that experience. So we hope that's when they do most of their internship. And of course, the numbers, the data shows us that's when they do most of their internships. It's a pass fail, so don't worry about it. And students do have to write an evaluation, and their employers write an evaluation about the internships, the student as well. Next slide, please. So, funding, because not all internships are equal. We do a pretty good job in like really pressing employers to pay students, especially things are very expensive. Housing is very expensive in the bigger cities where a lot of students end up doing internships. So RISD has some funding for that. And we've been working at trying to gain more funding to be able to support students properly. Oh, sorry. The one that's called the Meharem Fellowship, that is a $5,000 internship award for a student to create their own internship. That internship has to be, it's more in the social justice, sustainability. It's with a nonprofit. It's somebody that want to create something that's impactful to society that involves art. And that's $5,000. And then we have another one that's called the Discovery Grant. Discovery Grants for first year students all the way up to fifth year students. The Meharem goes for grad students as well. So the discovery one is just a deep dive into whatever they're studying as an intern, and they do just have to write a couple of essays. And we have two other grants, one another 3,000 for anyone that's interested in acting or in theater, and then we have $1,000 grant. And last year we had over 48 students take advantage of the $1,000 grant. We know the $1,000 grant is not really a ton of money, but it's for a low paid, unpaid, internship. So you can see from the link here, this will take you this will take you to that site, and it will show you all of the funding information. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, staying. Okay, thanks. So one of the questions I'm sure you're all going, well, who's actually hired the students? What are the names of the companies? Who are they? We have that information as well if you'd like to find out. So this is Internship Connect. And it was in October when we had this event, and you can see all the people's logos, but also too on that page, if you clicked on the link of employers that have hosted RISD intern, there's about 6 pages that shows everyone that's kind of hired an intern at some point or another. So it's there for you to also look at as well. So Internship Connect is in person. And then what's coming up is the design portfolio review, and that's going to be online. The next slide, please. So these are a couple of the companies that have come to the that hired interns. I shouldn't say come to the portfolio review. These are companies that students have interned like last year or the year before, or coming up, or postings that's on Artworks. So the Print Center is in New York, and that's for students who are interested in printmaking, photography, archiving. It's a wonderful place to work. It's been around for a long time. Aramont is another internship um, residency school that students can intern. They give them housing, they give them a chance to take a class, they give them some funding. It's not a ton of money because they're also being, using the facilities there at Aramont, but it gives them a chance to network with other artists beyond RISD. So next slide, please. So as I'm saying that, we do get a lot of interns from all different things. So architecture, like Perks and Wills, well-known architecture firm, even sometimes international. I just wanted to show, because some of the companies that do come and or do recruit or do hire interns, they hire from, this one was Beijing, China. The one that's next to it, Giant Spoon, is in New York and LA, and that's all about like motion, film, art. They have an art director's internship. So for any of your students that's interested. Next slide, please. So we do ongoing support of all students. So we send out a weekly Monday email to all students where they receive all the career programs that's going to happen for the week. And also if there's going to be any presentations, they get an email about that as well. This year we had a presentation from NASA, and Urban Outfitters came as well. And usually when those companies come, they do a presentation, and then they often do like a portfolio review, to help the students, advise them on how to get ready to apply. So we had that this year. This picture is with Cartoon Network, when one of our alums came back, and she had started her journey with Cartoon Network as an intern, and she came back and spoke to all the students about how she started and what were some of the things to expect. So we do a job and internship e-blast, especially through our social media, letting students know that there are so many things happening. So just wanted you to know that. If you follow us on social media, that's information you'll get as well. Next slide, please. So as I'm mentioning ongoing support, I just wanted to just kind of like put up just a few. Um, because as I said, NASA was here on campus and then I was really impressed with NASA. NASA had 3 students last year, and it was like they fell in love with an illustration student. They actually helped that student, they said the student was so good that they helped the student publish a little information book for their astronauts. It was great. And they were able to show that to us. Urban Outfitters, which is like anthropology, free people in the fashion world for textiles and fashion. They are a great partner to RISD. They exclusively recruit from RISD every year, and they always hire 1 to 2. And then a lot of their entry hires was actually with Urban as well. Mythology came to us through our alumni. Our alumni has worked there for many years. They're in New York, and they're a well-known agency for graphic design, motion graphics, photography. Um, Tiffany, which most people don't know, but the headquarters of Tiffany is actually in Rhode Island, and they do hire interns all the time. So just wanted to just kind of just brag and show you that little piece. So next slide, please. So this is artworks, what artworks looks like. So I am going to ask you to help me help your students. All students are all students are able to actually go and set up a profile for themselves. Um, Please have your students set up a profile in Artworks. When they set up a profile in Artworks and they go on to the OCI and job listing on the left-hand side, they can also they can also do like filter where they get an email once a week in their email box. That's what you're seeing on the left side that's showing all the jobs that's listed there. So
On this is this number.
this is some that's something you can actually ask them to do, is set up a profile in Artworks. Okay, next slide, please. So with the ongoing support that we do for students as well, the portfolio review, which is coming up on March 12th. This is for juniors, seniors, 5th-year students, 1st-year grad, and 2nd-year grad. These are for the upper class students. And that portfolio review is actually really a good opportunity for them to have professionals outside of RISD look at their portfolio and give them feedback. Okay. As you can see from the list from 2024, we had so many companies come to it. You would click on that link, it'll take you out to the company, but also there's a link that show the reviewers that attend. Many of the reviewers that come, they leave their email address and they leave it to RISD because it goes into Artworks. Artworks is password protected. It's only for students, alumni, and faculties for the RISD community. So, people, they won't get a lot of people that aren't fit for the jobs applying to it. So most companies do that. So these are just a couple of people that have come, like Hasbro is just in touch with us and they're going to be doing the portfolio review this year. Wet Design is an international architecture company that does a lot of fountains and a lot of public art, you know. But I'm hoping when you go back and look at the portfolio review website, you can click on some of the companies and see the things they're doing as well. So next slide, please. So as parents, you might have your own network. You might be a person that owns a company, or you might have other people that could use interns. We definitely would love that. We'd love to grow it. We'd love to grow the information on artworks. So you can actually go on the employer site and you can read about what qualifies as an internship. You can actually register yourself on Artworks and hire somebody if you have a company and you'd like an intern as well. There's information for employers. And also you can be in touch with me and I'm happy to answer questions. Next slide, please. So the main detail here is definitely meet with us. You know, we want all students to know that we're there. We are accessible for both when they're in school and when they finish. That goes on. We'll work with them for however long they need us to work with them. We actually advise people, you know, for years. So please tell them to be in touch with us. So this is going to be the ending of my presentation, but I can tell there are many, many questions. So please, you know, either put it in the chat or ask permission for questions.
Just one moment while I stop sharing my screen, and then we will move on to questions.
Okay.
I'll start. Um, Thank you. This is very helpful. I have a freshman, and so we're just starting to figure out how to navigate all of this. So on that's part of the question is we've been guided that internships are really more for rising juniors and seniors. And you just mentioned that they can come into their sophomore year and go to the career fair in the fall with their resumes. Where I'm struggling is what should she be doing this coming summer, her freshman summer, so she has something on her resume. Like, I'm just worried she doesn't really have a whole lot to show for herself yet. So is there advice on that?
Yeah, there is some advice on that. So for freshmen, the reason why freshmen can't do internships for credit, but she can definitely do internships in museums or in camp education, but not for credit. Okay, because the way that RISD works, they're in the division of the foundation, and then they leave that division and then they go into their disciplines, but their disciplines has not had them as students, so the faculty can't give them a grade. So for students like that, I would tell them if we have RISD also has travel courses, if that's something they can do, that's a good enriching thing to do if they can do that. But I would tell them they can definitely find other places for internships through museums. And also too, in the summer, it's a great time for them to get ready because in the fall, October is when we have the career fair. They can get their portfolios together or their samples together. They can do their LinkedIn profile, resume, of course. We are there all summer, so they can actually plan to meet with us. Usually freshmen have such a busy schedule that it's really hard for them to do all of those things while they're working.
Got it.
Yeah. Does that answer your question or?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay.
So we had a few questions as you were doing your presentation in the chat that I will just read out, and then we will go from there. If other people have questions, please add them to the chat or chime in. The first question we had was when you mentioned artworks, and someone wanted to know if parents have access to artworks or students only.
It's for students only, but your student, if they want to share their passwords, they can do that. And the main reason why is because we try to keep it, you know, between students and employers. Employers can see a student's profile if a student opens their profile for an employee to see it. But we don't give, you know, passwords for parents. If you have specific questions and you really need us to show you something, we can. So Artworks has a directory of over 15,000 companies that's part of it. A lot of it is from our alumni and from the network of RISD for the 33,000 alums that we have. So it's pretty vast and it's international. So it, you know, a student can search like what companies have hired international students and accepted the international visas. You know, they can search for companies in New York or in Texas, you know. But sorry, we only do students and alumni.
So the next question we have from chat is are these internships or funding for internships available to international students?
Yes, yes, they are. They're all available for international students. We don't limit it at all. So the amount of the 5,000 for the Meharem, it can be international. The 3,000 can be international. And there are two 3,000 ones. One is the theater one and one is the discovery. And then there's the $1,000 one, and that's open to all students. We really feel like it's really important to be equitable in that process.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question is, are there ever internships for fine arts and painting?
Oh, of course. Yes. Yes, of course. When I showed the print center in New York, that's a center that actually fine artists are putting their work into either being produced through printmaking or either being sold. So we have gallery internships that's listed sometimes on artworks, like open call for maybe gallery for installation work. And also when I showed like the Aramont school. There's also like residencies that hire young people to work. Like instead of working at a restaurant, maybe if you work at a residency, helping to, serve the residents or actually assisting them with their art project. I think that's a good thing. For painters, that's available for painters or any fine artists as well. You'd be surprised what students come up with as far as the fine artists for their internship. So that, like a painter might decide they want to work with a sculptor or with a ceramicist or they might want to teach, you know. Those are all kinds of things, but definitely they should come in and talk to us about that.
And feeding off that question, someone also asked about if there are positions available for industrial design.
Oh yeah, industrial design. Okay, I showed Tiffany because industrial designers can make jewelry. Some of them make small things, like Fossil, the bag company. The buckles, all those buckles are industrial design. On artworks, we have several positions for GE, a Shark Ninja. I'm just naming a few companies. Some industrial designers might want to work in making equipment for the hospital, or they might work in user experience, which is the experience that a person will have. So it's varied, definitely varied. Industrial design is a very open field. Like Nike recruits from RISD a lot, and they hire a lot of industrial designers. Converse, Puma, Adidas, New Balance, those are industrial designers and textile designers, graphic designers, you know. Um, I can keep going on.
Thank you so much. The next question asks, does internships count as academic credit?
Yes, RISD does accept academic credits. So for undergrads, both domestic and international undergrads, they are allowed 2 internships for credit. Okay. Um, for graduate students, they're allowed 1 internship for credit.
The next question is, do you support students on F1 visas about where to apply, as we understand a few are making F1 students not eligible to apply for certain internships like China?
I don't understand that question, but we do support F1 students applying for internship because it's called a CPT, is the visa that student will need to do an internship in the US. And RISD takes care of all the paperwork so that student can go out because it will be under an educational experience. If a student is doing an internship outside of the US, the laws are different. So the visa laws for the US is just making sure that a student isn't being taken advantage of, like they can't work for free, so they get credit, or you can get both. RISD likes all of we like all of our students to get both credit and paid at the same time. We have one department that requires credit in architecture. All architecture students are required to do one professional architecture internship, and then those credits are credits towards their internship when they become a professional. I hope that answered the question, or the person that asked the question can ask a little bit more.
Okay, the next question is, in artworks, what are OCI and 1220 job listings? How are they different from regular job listings?
Okay, OCI is on-campus recruiting, and the service that we use is a company called 1220, and they manage the platform. So if you see their name, it's, we've branded it for Artworks for RISD. They work with a lot of other colleges as well, and it's 1220 is the name. Just like people know about Handshake, so it's almost like Handshake is the RISD version. 1220 is the RISD version of Handshake, except for 1220, all the jobs are actually focused on art. And also on Artworks, we have some work study jobs posted there as well, on campus jobs.
The next question asks, are there recommended companies for furniture design students?
Yes, we have a pretty good relationship with, for example, with West Elm, or Williams Sonoma, they're recruiting. And we even had like a lot of, well, not a lot, but I'm trying to think of the name of the piano company. It just went out of my head, that makes pianos, that was part of RISD for a while. But yes, we do have specific furniture companies that, because furniture is done in ID, and then we have a furniture department. So Herman Miller, Knoll, also furniture company that recruits or have had interns in the past.
The next question is a statement and then a question. I'll read it all for you. I understand your policy on artworks in terms of only students, alumni having passwords. As a parent, it is very frustrating not to have access to artworks. My child is worried I'm poking around and trying to micromanage. Also, my child's executive functioning skills are not great. Can you give some advice? Also, is there a tutor or mentor program available?
We have different mentor programs on campus for students who are challenged, you know, um, and if they're having functioning problem, we sit down for 45 minutes to an hour and actually show a student how to navigate artworks, and they can come and talk to us and have and we can answer their question as well. I'm sorry that, we don't have artworks passwords for parents, but it's just for the students really and the alumni. But your student is definitely welcome to share their information with you. So if you'd like to help them, I'm sure that that's something that you can do as well. But we do have some help for students here on campus. Next question.
My daughter is a sophomore art architecture major, and she asked if I could help her find an internship with a top world architect. What does she mean by that?
Well, that's 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 about taste, okay? So is she looking for a top? Is she looking for Frank Gehry? Or is she looking Perkins Wills is a top company, Gensler's a top company. And in the architecture program, we go in and we do presentations, and we actually show the students where alumni are and what companies they worked with. And also we usually try to guide them through even looking through a LinkedIn profile where you can search RISD's 33,000 alumni. You can actually search by architecture. you know. So I would have your student come in and meet with one of us so we can show them that kind of search on LinkedIn so they can see all the architecture firm. There's Architectural Digest that will list like the 100 like giving accolades to the best architecture firm for the year. That's another place for the top architecture firms as well.
Someone asked, when you mentioned the internship registration deadline, is that for credit or for funding?
Okay, great question. So, for any of your students who are interested in the Maharam Fellowship, they should start working on that. That deadline is February 20th. The funding is different deadlines. So the first one that's coming up is the Maharam. The second one is the Discovery, and that's in the Discovery grant is in March. The $1,000 grant is in May. But all the deadlines are very clearly noted on our website.
The next question is, if you find an internship outside of artworks, can you still register it and get credit for it?
Yes, yes, yes. You can definitely register and get credit for it. It's an automated process. So it comes into the Career Center and we manage it in a sense like making sure it's a legitimate company, that the student is in the right department. And then we start a workflow process that it goes through, and it goes to the student's department head who knows the industry, that'll read and know the company, and also is able to see the website and see, you know, information about the company. And so you can find your internship in Artworks. You can find it through your own network, meaning family and friends, and then you register it on Artworks.
There was a quick thank you in the meeting chat. And then the next question was, do you have an annual report for RISD new graduates that lists companies that RISD goes to? So we can have a clue what companies students can apply to for jobs?
Well, we have on our website, we have some data about what companies have hired and how many have hired. On our website, we do have some, but I don't know if it'll be as detailed because it's changeable all the time. I'm happy to give that's on our main page under the Meet With Us. There's some data there.
Okay. Then there is awesome, thank you very much. And someone wanted to clarify about their earlier question. And they asked, do you support students on F1 visa about where to apply for summer internships? As we understand, a few US companies mention F1 students are not eligible to apply for internships like Cartoon Network recently did. My rising junior student is getting worried about the possibility of similar experiences from other employers.
Yes, we do have on Artworks, there is a section that says companies that have hired F1 students. And then we do get a listing from the international office that'll tell us, because they handle the visa to recent grads, they'll tell us where students have actually worked that have graduated in their first year. And some of the students that are international in the different disciplines that are STEAM discipline, like architecture or industrial design, they get an extra 2 years to be in America. So we can't control the companies that say that they don't hire international students, but we do our best to make sure that there are some that we know of by getting information from, you know, the international office.
What proportion of students generally do an internship?
Okay. In 1 year, summer being the largest cohort of internships, and that's usually anywhere from 300 to 400 students. The fall is about maybe, you know, like 40 students with their classes. Winter session anywhere from about 50 to 70 students, and spring is about another like maybe 50. So RISD has about 2,300 students. So, you know, 23, 25. So I think it's quite a fair amount. It's like a class almost if you in 1 year, if you look at the numbers like that. So students are actively doing internships, I would say, on our campus from our small number of students, you know, having in 1 year 500 students do an internship. That's pretty good.
The next question is there any support to a sophomore in terms of preparing for portfolio?
Oh, of course. Yeah. There's support for freshmen as well. It's, you know, it's only the policy that they can't get credit because they're not in their discipline for their their summer between um freshman and sophomore year. But yes, there's tons of support for students, especially sophomores. We always think it's better for them to start early, just to kind of start the process, to learn how to look, to learn how to put their information together, and to learn how to network and to talk to people about what they're looking for. So,
Then we have another thank you very much. And there are no more questions in the chat, but if someone else has a question, please feel free to put it in chat, or if you want to just go ahead and ask it, please feel free to do so now. And someone put in chat, is it possible to get an internship after graduation?
well, it depends on what the companies would like. So, for example, we have Hasbro who's actually looking for interns, but they're also open to hiring a recent grad. So it kind of depends on the companies. They set the rule for an internship. So we know that some students are so busy during the year that they don't during their time at RISD that they don't do an internship. And after they still look for an internship. So it really depends on the company. I know, like, for example, the MFA museum, they have an ongoing year-long internship for somebody interested in museum.
How many interns go on to get a full-time job at the same company after graduation?
We don't keep that number because the students don't always tell us and the companies don't always tell us. So I can't give you like a number, but I know that it really sets them up for the next thing.
Any more questions?
I also want to mention with that question too, we do have data that shows that students, when, you know, that's done an internship, they tend to get higher wages for their next job, you know, out of school. So that's why we encourage it too.
Someone asked, how long does Artworks keep a job description up for typically?
About 4 weeks. It's updated daily, so it keeps changing. And so you'll probably hear your students, they'll say, I can't find anything there. And I always tell them, I wish my crystal ball was working and I can tell you exactly when to look or when to, you know, keep plugging on. But Artworks is updated daily, and I would definitely encourage them to set it up so they can get automatic email or just keep looking at it.
Someone asked, do you ever give presentations like this to students in class?
Yes, yes, definitely. That's what the departmental presentation's all about. And it's more in detail. Like it would be more focused on these are the architecture firms and this is what they're looking for and here's a posting from them. That's how we usually do the departmental presentation. Or we'll talk about grants or other career paths that we've seen our alumni have in different disciplines.
Someone want to know, is it easy for FAV students to find internships, and which companies does RISD have to connect them to?
That's a pretty big, broad company. But for example, Disney is always like recruiting, and FAV students can work in many different industries depending on what kind of student they are. It could be like the Cartoon Network, it could be the Pixar, it could be animation, and it could be film, because it's film, video, and animation. So it's a very wide scope. So it depends on what they're interested in.
Someone wants to know, is there a deadline when they need to have their internships done in order to get credit for it?
Well, RISD's internship program is based on the semester. So it's in conjunction with a class. If it's in the fall, it starts when the fall semester starts and ends when the fall semester ends. And that's when you get a credit for that class. So when you're doing an internship, you're not doing extra classes, you're doing one less class and doing the internship. And in the summer, you know, we on that calendar, we try to give the employers a date. Like we say, it starts June 1st, and we like students to finish their internship about the middle of August, or, you know, a couple of weeks before they go back to school, because to give them a break. So that's when the grades due in the middle of August for summer internships.
So for summer internships on artworks, what are the typical application deadlines?
The may, oh, from the companies? Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So that's varying. So some companies will have early deadlines, and then some will have later deadlines. So for example, like Urban Outfitters, their deadline was like the 15th of January or something. But you're gonna find other companies still haven't found interns, and it might go till, like the beginning of May. A lot of companies are like that. And in the fine arts, sometimes it's rolling, depending on once they fill the position. Museum deadlines are always like in early February, end of January. So if your student's looking for museum work, they should definitely get on it right now.
Someone asked, besides artwork, are there any other public job sites like Indeed you can recommend?
Yes, when I was, it was hard to show that in this presentation and keep it small, but when we take a student to their own discipline, we show them other job boards that students have used. So it could be like Working Not Working, which is more freelance, or Word of Mouth, which is more fine arts. And there's Indeed. And then also on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a very big job board. If you're in New England, there's higherculture.org, which lists all the nonprofits in Massachusetts for jobs. So yes.
Someone asked where they could watch the playback for this webinar. So this webinar, as I mentioned, is being recorded. We will post the link in the family's newsletter that comes out next month, and it will be a link that will give you access to be able to see it on YouTube, but it is a like a protected link, so it's not one that's broadcast out to everyone. It's just you'll have to go through the link to the link that we provide. And if by chance you don't get the link, you can reach out to me at the families.risd.edu website or the families@risd.edu email, and then I can send you the webinar directly. The next question is, also in general, do we know the geography of companies that hire RISD students? We have a hard time finding internships in Midwest,
And
like Chicago.
yeah. Well, I think because the companies are pretty much at East Coast and West Coast, yes, whenever we talk to students that are in the Midwest kind of area, we really try to lean into alumni that's been there, and we try to find, some of the companies that they've worked for. But like when I mentioned like Herman Miller, that's in the Midwest, and they do hire furniture and architecture students. So, but I know that it's definitely not as much as like a New York or West Coast. And Texas, of course, like NASA and HP, you know. But I think, please have your student meet with us.
So the next question says, my student asked a professor to provide a letter of recommendation for a museum internship, but the professor failed to provide that before the deadline. Is there a way to ensure that professors provide timely follow-up?
Ah, I wish I could say yes to that question, but I just can't control the professor. When I advise students, I always talk about like, if they need to get um 3 recommendation, I tell them to get 4 or 5. And I tell them to ask people ahead of time. Like if they think they're gonna look for internships or jobs right now, they should just kind of like start perusing which professors are that they want to get a recommendation from, just to give them a heads up. Because it's kind of hard because um, winter session, a lot of the faculty, they leave the country because they're not teaching. So then sometimes that's problematic, but a department head is usually a good person to ask because they have to stay and
A-
give recommendation.
And then we have someone wants to know, do you help students find housing for their internships?
Well, we don't exactly like link them to a housing, but we do have resources on our website, where students could reach out to some colleges that do give room and board. And we have been talking to some employers where we ask them to actually help students with finding housing through the cohorts of interns that go in. And a lot of companies do, like if a student is going out west somewhere, um, the companies will have like the PUP program for Pixar, they have like housing set up for those students, but the students will still have to pay.
Okay, that was the last question in chat. Do we have any more?
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I want to thank Karen Harris again for providing all of this wonderful wisdom and expertise. The career website is available, and as she mentioned, there's a parent section, and there's a ton of resource information there for you to check out. Please have conversations with your students, and the more you're talking about it, I think the more it helps them, keeps it on their mind that the Career Center is available and they can go from freshman to senior to afterwards. So even if they haven't chosen their major yet, they can still go meet with someone at the Career Center. They can set up a time to go talk, and they also have drop-in periods where a student can go, because we know that students have crazy schedules and may have thought about going but didn't make an appointment, but they have drop-in times for you as well. Um, Please be on the lookout for other families, webinars with information like this for you. If you have some suggestions about webinars that you would like to see, please reach out to me. Again, my name is Diane Cameron, and I'm the Families Officer. Um, we also have the Families Association Leadership Council. So if you feel like you would like to be more involved in what is going on campus and give a voice to the way you're being, the way you're receiving information and resources, please reach out to me about that and we can get you connected with that as well. Thank you again for joining us, and please have a wonderful evening.